Here's where everything begins for making cabinet boxes here at the panel saw. Now, modern day companies have CNC machines that will do what we're going to do. We don't have that. So this panel saw is our main workhorse when it comes to cutting melamine and many other materials that we use for cabinet making. Step one, drag one of the sheets over. They are not very light. And I'm going to be speeding up and slowing down the video so you actually see all of it instead of me cutting into frames. First, drag it over. Now that I've put the sheet onto the saw itself, onto the support foot on the base, I need to put it in a specific place, meaning I need to slide it into an area. What we need to do first is get rid of the factory edges. First this top edge, and we're also going to cut off the back edge right here. So we have a perfectly cut, nice and sharp edge for edge banding to go onto later on. So step one, we're going to trim off the top, but for step two, cutting the back, I needed to put the back of the board about in line with this little cut right here all the way up. You can see where this cut is. That's where the saw blade's going to cut. And so I have it set so that the edge is going to be cut off maybe 1/4 inch. If you look close, you can see some of this white on this melamine missed the end of the board. You got to cut that off. So I'll move it so that all gets cut off and we have a clean edge. To turn the head, simply just push and it locks in. There's no releases or anything like that. You want to put it back, just put it back. So for cutting sideways, there we're ready. And to get this thing to move left and right, I pull up on the lever here. Now I can move it. So now we have to get this thing set up to just trim the top edge. Now I have some stops already set up for that. So I raise it up, and right here on this darker area on the video, you can see there's a stop here, and there's another one down here that we use all the time. So this little black handle, press it in, lower it down, and that prevents it from going any further, and then lock it right here on this lock. Now it won't go up and down, and I have it set perfectly to cut off about 1/4 inch off the top. Just take that little piece off, break it into little pieces, and throw it in the trash. Now we're going to cut off the end. Line up your pin and lock it in. Remember, it's still locked. I can't pull down. Pull that out and you're ready to go. Also, you may have noticed that I've moved the saw completely to the left before I made the cut. I'll try to avoid plunging the blade into the wood to make your cut. You want to ease into it. So I moved it all the way left, plunged the blade in, and then eased into my cut. It's better for the blade, there's less tear out, things like that. From this point, the next step is to cut widths out. Now, I'm going to have a cut list for everybody that needs it, so that's not something you need to worry about. Just know that the widths, the depth, this would equate to the depth of the cabinet from the front to the wall, is 23 3/4. Now, once we put 1/4 inch back on there, that will give us 24. So for now, I need to cut strips that are 23 3/4 wide all the way across. And then we'll cut how long they are, how tall they are after that. So to do that, this is still sliding because I'm going to need to be cutting horizontally this way. Just move my saw blade back. And now we're going to use the next stop down here. We just lower it down, push that little knob, that rod. That stops my saw. Lock it into place nice and tight. We don't want it to move in the middle of the cut. Again, we come all the way to the end. We're going to press in and go across. But the thing I want to show you, or to let you know ahead of time, is after we make the cut across to the other side, The top piece and the bottom piece are going to have an 1/8 inch gap. That's where the blade is cutting. And those are going to want to collapse once I come out the end and pinch the blade. That's going to cause a bad burn and a lot of tear out, and it just doesn't make for a good piece. So at the end of the cut, if there are other people in your group working, have them stand here after you go by to lift that piece off. If you're alone like I am, I'm going to use my left hand and I'm going to put it right here as the saw is coming out. I'm going to lift it off of this little piece, this little flap, lift it up so that will keep them separated so that they don't crush the end. All right, stop my cut, reach in, and I'm going to be lifting that, holding on and lifting. Then I can drop it down. Now I have a good edge here and a good edge here, and I want to keep them good. So I don't want to put this on the floor, then move around and start chipping. So when I pick it up, I'm going to just pull the back off a little, get my hand under it, lift, and then pick it up this way and over. If that's too heavy for you, get a friend to help put it off on the side. Now, on this piece, we have a good edge here. This is great, but the bottom edge is still bad. We need to cut that off. So we're gonna have to flip it over. So, I'll move it down. I'm gonna lean it out. And what I need to do is take this extra support table, this folding table that's behind it, and I'll get a better view of it here in a moment. You're going to move it to the left, so it'd be this way, left and up. So I grab it, left, up, and then it locks back into the right. So I have a table that's a little higher. So grab the board, pick it up, lay it down on that table, and then flip it into place. And there we go. We've flipped it over, and now I have a better cut. The reason that I can't just move the saw to the floor and cut it, it's too close to the floor. There's a couple of things in the way that it can't cut that close to the ground. It's also not very comfortable. So we're just going to trim the top. Now I unlock it, lift it back up, but this time I don't have any stops for this one. Because we're now measuring from the bottom up, I can use my tape measures that are on the saw. When we're measuring from the top down, because there's no standard on how wide that is, I have to do it the way that we did. I either set up a stop or I use this little thing on the side, which we'll deal with another time. So I simply put the middle tape measure at 23 3/4, the middle one. I have a little blue line from a marker to show you where that is. So just kind of bend down till you find it just right and lock that into place, and you're ready for your cut. This top piece isn't nearly heavy enough to do any damage to the saw blade or anything, so I didn't worry about lifting it up. Break it into pieces. Now we have our piece that's 23 3/4, and the end is cut correctly. Now I can start cutting my lengths, which in this case, all of my cabinet lowers are 30.5 inches long. Slide down, move that to 30.5. Remember, it's the orange marker on the right side, the side closer to the blade. 30.5, lock it in, pull it back in nicely. If I slam into my stop, the stop is going to move a little and make it wider, make it taller than it should be, and that's going to be a problem down the road. So be gentle. Now we just move the saw back into position in the middle, lock it back on the pin, cut that, make that go vertical, and remove the brake, the stop, so I can cut vertically. Now you got to figure out how many do you need. That is on your cut list. For today I'm just making a couple of cabinets, so I'll make enough for our demonstration, and that's all. If you have enough left from the piece you were cutting, you may as well cut the bottom piece. In our case, my bottom piece is going to be, from my cut list, 16.5. So we'll set it down to 16.5 and make a cut. If you remember from demonstrations before, base cabinets will have a solid base and then what are called stringers at the top, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit as we go. Here's that demonstration cabinet that we were looking at in a previous video. As you can see, the base cabinet has a solid base, but the top is hollow. We have two 6-inch strips called stringers that just go inside, and this makes it easier. There's less material, makes it a little less expensive. However, it makes it easier in many cases to put in hardware from here on the inside instead of having to do it from the outside. But as you can see, the back stringer, there's no edge banding, nobody sees it. Only on the front one do we need some edge banding. They're 6 inches wide, and a lot of times they're so small we just make them on the table saw. Just set your table saw to 6 inches and make a couple of cuts for your stringers. While I'm standing here, I wanted to show you an obvious question a lot of students have is why don't we use the table saw for all these cuts? Why can't we use the panel saw and the table saw? Well, here's the reason. On this side, you can see the edge is nice and sharp, both edges. On the back side, though, with the table saw, you can see how chewed up these are all the way across, both of them. Okay, that's the reason. When the table saw blade goes down, this is the good edge and it tears out the bottom. That's why we have to use the panel saw. That is set up to prevent that. But with a stringer, I don't need that. It's on the top, you really don't see them. And I can put the good edge down. If somebody does look up, I see this good edge. This other edge is going to be covered with the countertop. Now we just use a chop saw or the upcut saw to cut these to length. When you have your pieces cut, this is how I recommend setting them up. This is just a cart that we use for cabinet making. But after doing an entire kitchen, this is usually full of melamine pieces. On one side I have the left and right pieces, the sides, lefts and rights. On the other side I have the bottom pieces and the stringers, which represent the top of those boxes. That way you've got everything on separated, and any operation you're doing on one, you can do to all of them at the same time. Now we bring all those pieces to the boring machine. In this case, I would say that whoever is cutting all of the left and right sides, cut them all at once. Get them out really fast so that another part of your group can split off and start drilling. This is called a boring machine. This one has a number of different drill heads, and they all drill at the same time. So let me show you how to set this up. So here are the two sides that we have for this particular demonstration, and you may have a whole lot more than just two. So make sure to do the same thing to all of them. I'm just going to take a pencil or marker or something, and we're going to designate the bottom of the cabinet. So the bottom could be on this end or it could be over here. It doesn't make a bit of difference, just mark. I tend to put 2 lines. That's just my particular mark. Go with whatever you want, but something to say that's the bottom of the cabinet because everything is referenced from the bottom up. That's how we want it. So I'll put one of these aside. Now what we do is take a quick look at the piece. Do you see a lot of tear out on the edges? This back edge has a little more tear out than this one. If I flip it, a little bit here, but not too bad. Okay, so pick your best face and have that face facing up. That's the side that we're going to drill. That'll be the inside of the cabinet. We likely won't ever see the outside of this box. So now we know there's my bottom, and I'm going to put it against the back and slide it down to this stop. If you look close, this stop right here, it has a little spring on it, but for the moment it's sticking out, and that lines it up correctly and references from the bottom. So all I have to do on this machine is press the pedal, which I know you can't see on the video, but it's right by my foot. Press and hold it. So you got to hold the pedal. It's going to drill all the way down. Once it stops going down, then I can let go and up it comes. okay? And I've now drilled the entire box. All of these drill are now done, and these are for adjustable shelves and hinges later on. Now, instead of just flipping it around to do the back side, like the upper, we'll do the uppers that way. What we're going to do is wait to do the back side holes, and we're going to move the fence back later on after I've done all of these. The reason we do that is simply because if these holes are in and spaced correctly, they'll be perfect for our drawer glides. We can just put the drawer glide in, screw them into those holes. We don't have to guess where they go. It makes it a lot easier. So I'm now going to move this back to the cart, grab my other one. I've looked, this looks really good. Okay, bottom is this side. Now, the problem, and this is the mistake a lot of people make, I just made a left side a second ago. I need a right side. Because these holes aren't exactly the same distance, the back ones are going to be moved, I have to turn this around and make sure to put the bottom marks that I put on with a pencil are now facing the other direction. So you need to alternate that. So I have a definite right and a definite left. Don't mix those up or we'll have all lefts and then that's a problem. Good. Now, I need to move this fence back. So what we're going to do is unscrew this one right here. Don't unscrew the pin, unscrew the fence. Just unscrew it like that. Do the same on the other side. And you're going to push it back. This particular fence is a little tougher on the left side than the right. Then just screw it back in. Those stops are set correctly for what we need for what we're doing. Push it against the pin, tighten it up, and we're good to go. Now, obviously, I'm not going to recut the same edge, so I got to flip it around. Okay, this is the other side. There's the marks for my bottom. They're referenced the same, bottom up, and now these are aligned correctly, and I can drill it. Good, so now I have my front. The front one is the closer one. This is my back, and now they are spaced correctly for drawer glides later on. Repeat on the other side. There's my bottom mark. It goes against that pin. Drill. If you don't allow this to go all the way down, they're not deep enough, the pins and everything else that goes into them won't fit right. Make sure this has stopped moving all the way down to get it the right depth. When you finish cutting your holes, here's how I want you to line them back up on the cart. It makes it easier. Take them so that they're face to face, holes to holes, and one of these ends is this is the front, so they're both facing the same direction. Holes to holes, whether they're upside down or not, I don't have my two marks for my bottom, so it's right side up. That I really don't care. I want these holes facing these holes, so this is one cabinet, one set of sides for one cabinet, and that's how I want them put together. Now we move on to the edge bander. First, we turned it on, and on the back, on the other side of this face is the main switch. Once it's on, this is what you're going to see. It says press reset button, which that's fine, but it's at 0 degrees. Okay, we're going to be going up. So it's going to keep saying please reset because it's not heated up. So we would need to press the hot pot button. It looks like a pot that's boiling, so press that. This second button, it has a thermometer on it. If that's off, it's only going to heat up halfway. This is kind of a standby mode, so it doesn't waste a lot of electricity and heat in the glue because you don't need it, until you need it. So when you want to go all the way up, press that. This should be lit up, this thermometer button. Now, a whole bunch of other buttons. Here's the ones you need to worry about. First, that's a trimmer, so it cuts off the end of the edge banding. This one's a buffer. That gets rid of the sharp edges. Okay, and those are really the only two we need to worry about. Now it's heating up, and even if I reset, you can see we're going to 190 degrees, and it's only at 28 degrees Celsius. So this takes 10-15 minutes to warm up. So you just sit here and wait. In the meantime, make sure you have the correct edge banding in there. Let me show you how to put it in.
Load the edge banding, simply pull out the proper color and lay it out so it's unwinding and as you see in the picture. to the back of the machine. Next, open the machine and feed the tape around the white post into the side of the edgebander. Once fed, pull it in, pull back on the block feeder, and put the tape behind it and push the block feeder back in. To see how far in you should load the tape, simply tilt your head slightly to the left and look in this area. What you're going to see is a small opening that has a left side and a right side. Simply slide the tape up to the right side of the opening and lock it in. This is the hot pot. Open up the top, and if it needs more glue, just dump in some of the glue pellets. The machine will do all the rest. Place the top back on, and you're ready to go. When everything is loaded, close the back of the machine and then press the reset button, the one that looks like a triangle, twice. Then press the white button to get everything set to go, and then continue waiting for the machine to warm up.
Now that you have the right color in and this is heated up, it'll tell you temperature okay. Keep in mind it actually will heat a little above the 190 at first. You're waiting for it to say these words. To turn it on, press the green button. Now that the machine is running, we need to vacuum out all of the extra pieces out the top. So the vacuum is right here. Turn that switch. We're all set to go, but if you have to edge band really big pieces, pull out this bottom support until you think that's enough. That'll give you a little extra room to maneuver it. We take your side. And remember, we have holes that are a little further away than the others. This is the front. This is the front edge. It doesn't matter if you put it in the edgebander this way or if it's flipped over so the holes are down. That doesn't make a difference. What you need to make sure is that that edge is in so that it's correct. There's a conveyor belt. See, I can push this in and nothing happens. Conveyor belt's underneath. To get that to start moving and pull the board through, twist this little knob clockwise. Now you'll be able to hear it moving. Press it into the end to this bar and push it in. And I tend to keep a little weight against it until I hear it chip it off, to chop it. There, that's what I'm looking for. Now do the other piece. Same thing. This is my front. The holes are closer, so I'm going to put it like that. Now don't worry about the piece I already sent through. It won't fall off the end unless I allow this one to hit it and push it off. Now we bring it back and check. So here's the edge banding, and I need to feel if this is going to stay on. I'm trying to pull it off with my finger. And that feels pretty good. If it easily peels off, rip it off of there. I'll see if I have an example for you. Here's the bottom piece. Now you may be wondering, well, which do I edge band, this long edge or the short edge? If that's ever a question, take a tape measure and measure it. This is 23 3/4 from here to here. That's the depth of my cabinet, which means either this is the front or that's the front. I don't care which one, you just gotta edge band one of them. So, look at it, which edge is better? I like that one better. Send it through. Here are the two stringers that go across the top. Remember, the one in the back doesn't need edge banding, you don't see it. The one in the front does, so pick one. Pick an edge, hold it against, run it through. That one feels good, put it aside. That one feels good as well, so we're all good to go. So here's an example of edge banding that just peeled right off. I just wanted you to see that, I mean, you can see when I ripped it off, there's only glue right here. Most of this didn't get any. So it's usually pretty obvious. If I flick and this comes off, rip it off of there, throw it away, and just edge band again. When you're all finished, turn it off by pressing the red button, then turn off the vacuum in the back. Now, if you know you're going to be edge banding again very soon, go ahead and just leave it running. If you think you're going to edge band a little later in the day but don't want to hear all that noise, then turn it off and then click on the thermometer button to let it cool off to halfway. Then heating it up is more like 3 to 5 minutes instead of 12 to 15. Saves you a lot of time. But if you want to edge band again and leave it and turn it off but leave it hot, if you don't use it again and don't turn on the conveyor belt to use it again, within about 5 minutes, this will shut off and it'll cool off to halfway on its own. It's just a power saving feature. So if you don't leave it running, it will cool off regardless. If you leave it running and you just keep coming back, that's okay. I don't mind it running through the class.